welcome to emilykatemadethis. I am Emily Kate and I'm coming to you from Berlin in Germany. Welcome to my knitting slash sewing slash general crafty YouTube channel. This episode is probably, well, I was going to say it's going to be a long one, but it does depend on how long my voice holds out for. I think it worked last time to whack up the volume instead of trying to shout at you. If you weren't watching my last video, my voice is doing some very strange things and doesn't really feel like playing game. So I will see how it goes. Might have to record in stages, but I am recording, so let us begin. I'm going to add some chapters to the bottom of this video, so if you're not interested in something, you can just skip ahead. Or if you're super interested, you could skip back and watch it again. I'm going to have a couple of finished objects, some half-finished objects, I suppose, a couple of whips and a few plans, and hopefully, if my voice holds out, I can talk a bit about Sweden and a little bit about my holiday that I just came back from a week and a bit, 2 weeks ago. So, let us begin. I've just realised I was supposed to talk about what I'm wearing, but I'm not wearing it. It's over there. I will show it to you, and yes. If you watched my last video, I was talking about my new skirt that I made, which actually I am wearing, but you can't see. In that video, I was wearing this. So if you want to see what it looks like on, I will put a picture or a video, but if that's not good enough, you can have a look at my last video about my skirt. This is the Mount Pleasant tee, and I've knitted this once before in a superwash yarn that I got a couple of years ago, and I was very surprised actually how much I enjoyed wearing this merino superwash yarn. It's not usually my go-to, but it's actually very nice. I have a habit of recreating the same patterns. When I find a pattern I like, then I want to make it a lot, and I do very much love it. But this one is more of a rustic, a natural wool. It's been in my wardrobe because I just washed it, so it's a bit crumpled. And this one is knitted in a wool by the knitter's Cottage. I'm pretty sure I bought this last year, but it could be the year before. And this is a wool that a woman named Vicky, who has her own sheep, she got her yarn spun into wool, and she's done it once more since. So it's not something you can just go to the shop and buy, it's something she's done twice. She might have some more in her shop. If I remember, I will link her website below. It's such lovely wool. It's really beautiful. It feels so bouncy and delightful. It's so nice to knit with. Originally, this wool, if you recall, was destined to be in a vintage jumper that I had actually started, called the Bestway flower jumper, and I combined it with this beautiful hand-dyed wool. But this wool and that wool, they hated each other immensely. They did not get on, so I had to separate them. And my mum said when she was visiting, why don't you just make another Mount Pleasant, because it's such a beautiful pattern and this yarn can shine on its own. So I listened to my wise mother and I did just that. And a couple of you who saw this last time in my last video said, I think I know what you've done there. And they were both correct. I hand knitted the lace on the bottom. This time I knitted the lace in the round, whereas the last one I knitted them flat. and then I did the rest of this on my vintage knitting machine. And then when I finished that, I seamed them together by hand, and I hand knit the rib on the arms and the neck. Because I decided 2 days before my holiday, I have absolutely nothing that goes with a bright orange skirt. I only had something that was kind of black, and I just thought I'm going to look like Halloween, and I don't want to. So this was a quick fix, and I'm really happy with it. I love this lace detail, so much so that I'm considering making another one, but making it long sleeve. I think I'll make it basically the same, like a drop shoulder, and then just knit the arms and seam them on. I think that's my current thought anyway, because it's just such a beautiful lace pattern. All of the details will be on my Ravelry. I said that with confidence, but I'm actually not great at writing down my notes. I think all of my notes are on Ravelry. I think so. So that is what I'm wearing, which I'm not, but I was last time I recorded. And I am wearing my skirt. And thank you to all your lovely comments about my skirt. I've actually had so many DMs about the skirt, it's hilarious. The video didn't get that many views, but the amount of people that, like the people who watched it, really liked it. So that means a lot to me, because I've had so many people message saying they want to make a skirt, can they make it by hand? Some people have even bought knitting machines since they saw it. I find it crazy that interestingly enough, I influence, it seems weird to say, but I have more influence over Australians than anyone else, because the most amount of people that message about having done something because I did it or showed it are from Australia. My first finished object, unless you count that, that's also a finished object, are my 1940s socks. Socks always look so weird when they're not on your feet, but equally when I try to take videos or pictures of my feet, somehow they just don't look like my feet anymore. Foot photography is like a whole other genre of creativity. So here are my socks. If you were here before, you may have seen that I knitted my mum some. I attempted to knit hers using my knitting machine, and although she was very happy with them, I prefer my socks knitted by hand, so these are hand knitted. What did I do? They're a really fun construction because you actually knit them kind of inside out in sections. You start at the top, then you do your colour work, then you knit a big section of rib, and then you turn them inside out, and then you knit your heel and your foot. And I love these. I love this idea. I had so many plans on using my knitting machine to do the foot and do loads of colour work, but I think I will still be knitting them by hand. This wool is Regia 4-ply, I'm pretty sure, and it's very plump. It's a very nice plump yarn, and I did change the pattern because it's 1940s pattern, so it's knitted flat, and so my mum's ones I knitted flat, but these are knitted in the round, and I changed the heel mostly because the pattern was knitted flat, so I had to make a heel that was in the round. Did I change anything else? And obviously I did the toe, they're in the round, so it's not 100% to the pattern, but everything else is the colour work, the style. I'm very pleased with them. I've just come across one problem, and that I don't have shoes that one wears these with. and it hadn't occurred to me at all. It's to, like, wow, I have no words. I've thrown myself. Let's start this again. What kind of shoes does one wear with such socks? Because they're folded over, so they're thicker. And I don't really own shoes. I have Birkenstocks for the summer, Tom's like canvas shoes for the summer, and then I have Birkenstock boots for the winter, and these green boots, but they're like mid-calf length, and yeah, kind of. So I don't actually know how to wear these. So for now they might just have to be socks I wear at home until I figure out the shoe situation. But I'm really happy with them. I actually took these with me to Sweden, thinking I'd bash through these in the car on the way. We went from Berlin to Denmark and over to Sweden, and in the car. And I thought I'd finish these like by the first day. Actually, I was knitting the ribbing on my t-shirt in the car on the way to Lübeck in Germany. That's when I realised I can't knit in the car. That was highly unpleasant. So I ended up not knitting in the car, and other than that, and so we were so busy I never knitted anything. I knitted 10 rows on one of these socks on the trip, and then the rest of it I knitted on the ferry on the way home. So I knitted the entire foot on the way home on the ferry, and the ferry's in total sitting on the ferry is about 9 hours. So was it 9? 6 hours plus 7 plus waiting. It was about 8 hours in total. So I did get some knitting done on my trip. So yes, very happy with these. I changed the stitch count because I have thin feet, so I did 56 stitches on the foot circumference, and this part I did to the pattern, which was 73 stitches. So we were not blessed by the weather gods when we went on our holiday, and the rain followed us all the way, like the entire time. We had a few hours in between of sunshine, which was wonderful. So we went to Lübeck, then up to Denmark, and from then on the heavens opened, and we went up to, and I'm going to pronounce this wrong, but Aarhus? I'll try and write it down. I want to naturally say Aarhus, but I'm pretty sure it's Aarhus. And yeah, from then on it just rained all the time. And when we went to some forests and places we wanted to sit down, everything was soaking wet. And I had this memory of somebody, and I'm thinking it might be Jana from Finnish Knitting Stories, who talked about felting some like felted mats to sit on. So when I came back, I thought, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to use my knitting machine to make it fast. It was not fast. My knitting machine hated me the entire time I tried to put this rather thick wool through it. My knitting machine is a fine gauge machine, but it does say that if you put every other needle out of action, you can use thicker wools. So I tried to use this Drops Alaska, and I've had this yarn for a few years because I made a Christmas jumper out of it, and I completely overestimated how much yarn I would need because I made up the pattern and I had a lot left over. So I decided to make these mats, and I used like the broad width of my machine to make these big mats, and they felted big time. It's so small. I did measure it before and after. So I used my machine and it struggled so much. It hated this yarn. It was dropping stitches. It was just very angry at me. But I didn't really want to knit a huge square by hand using thick wool. So I made this, and it was, so my green one was 14.5 inches, don't know, I'll write it in centimeters, wide and 14.5 inches high, and it went down to 11 inches overall. So I made a brown one, and this one was 20 inches high and 17 inches wide, and it went down to 16 and 12. So it lost a lot. I did consider making them all look rather fun, felt something onto them, but because they just came out so small and I don't really know how often we'll use them because our bums are a bit bigger, I figured I'd just test run them, see how we like them, and if we do, then I might make something more fun, like embroider something onto them. But the fun thing is I felted something for the first time, and that was exciting, and I now know this is a very good felting wool. The kind of annoying thing is one of my plans is to make felted slippers, and I looked on Ravelry for some ideas, and I came across this pattern which turns out is very, very popular. Lots of people know about it because I think Inga talked about it sometime a few years ago, and Inga from Knitting Traditions talked about it, and I apparently just missed that. And I came across this pattern, then discovered that lots of people use this Drops Alaska wool to make these slippers, and I just used up my leftovers to make these, and I could have used them to make the slippers. I'm kind of annoyed, but I'm hoping we'll get some use out of these, because we do go for walks in the forest all the time, and sometimes it is nice to sit down and have a cup of tea, because I bring my thermos, and nice not to have a wet bum, so I will bring them with me and we'll see how they go. So the bigger one will go to my husband and I get the little one. But it was fun to felt something in the washing machine, that on purpose. My next finished object is, I don't know how I feel about it. It's a headband. I think I might have sewn it wrong. I think I might have seamed it incorrectly, but I'm also just not sure how I feel about it. So this is it. It's one of those that you knit a tube and then you have these two C's, like you sew a tube and the tube you then fold in half, then they look like C's, and then you put them together like this and you sew through all the layers. And I don't know, I think my layers just shifted around when I was sewing them, so it's got a bit of a twist in the fabric, and I think I should probably unseam it and redo it, but I don't know how much I love it. I'll put it on. I washed my fringe this morning and I think it looks a bit wet. It's not greasy, it's water. So in the winter I get really cold ears, but I don't like having a hat on all the time. So I thought one of these headbands would be fun, but my husband hates it. So that probably doesn't help. I don't know how I feel about it. It could be that I just seamed it wrong. It does keep my ears warm, so I do like that. But I don't know. What do you think? Maybe I'm just not a headband person. It's practical. I'm going to use it still, but I was trying to go through my yarn that I've got plans for all of my beautiful rusticy Swedish Norwegian wools. Yeah, loads of my yarns have a life's purpose, but I have a bunch of yarn that I've got either I was given it or I bought it when I started knitting in enthusiasm, and I have no life plans for them, so I was trying to go through and use some of them up, like this Alaska yarn, and this one is a really lovely soft Ashford wool from New Zealand, and I do think I suit these bright colours, but I don't know that I suit the headband style, but it is practical, so it does keep my ears warm, and that is kind of the main thing. I just kind of wish it looked a bit better. Oh, my voice. So, finished object that I'm a bit uncertain about. I watched so many tutorials on how to seam these together. It's embarrassing. It's not hard. It's not hard at all. It's just hard to get it through all the layers without any of the fabric shifting. But I feel like it worked. But apparently yeah, don't know. I could maybe just do it this way around and not have that at the top of my head. But there's some some stash busting going on, so that's nice. My next finished object was supposed to be a pair of socks, and you may recall when I did my autumn plans video that I talked about these socks, and I was very excited about these socks, and it suddenly blossomed into my brain. I actually can do colour work on my vintage knitting machine, but I could not for the life of me figure out how to do it, and I tried a couple of months back and it was a brain meltdown. I then discovered I was doing it completely wrong and I was using this English manual for the English version of the machine I have, which comes from Germany, and basically it tells you the polar opposite of what you have to do. And so I Google translated my German manual and then the Swedish manual that I have for this machine, and it told me to do something completely different. So I thought, I'm going to test that out and see if I can get it to do colour work and make some socks. And I did, and I had success, and I was thrilled. This is my test swatch on my machine. So I wanted to use these sock yarns up that I have because I bought them back at the beginning. I think I bought this one to make carrots for some bunny rabbit socks that I made, and it's just sitting in my stash, but it's so orange. I don't actually really like orange, like this kind of orange, but I thought this would be perfect for those Batty socks that Stone Knits has. Photo. I try and make those socks on my machine, and then I completely cast on the wrong amount. I thought that it would come out really tight on the machine, so I went up to the last size, and they came out massive. So it didn't take forever and a day to make it, but I was so proud of what I made that I didn't want to just rip it out. So I thought, what can I turn this into? So I just finished that headband, so of course headbands were on my mind, so I made a headband. If I'm being perfectly honest, it's not my style. I don't love I'm not a Halloween person. I don't love orange. I'm not, like, it's not something I would buy, but it was really fun, like creative brain project. As in, I had to learn how to do the colour work. Then when I was trying to figure out how to save it, how can I do it? So I thought about the ribbing, but then on the machine you have to do the ribbing in a certain way, and it's mock rib. And I've only done mock rib in one direction, so I had to learn how to do it the other direction. Then I had to figure out how to turn it into a headband. Did I make another one? Would that be stretchy enough? Can I do mock rib? This basically, can I do a stretchy band? So it was a lot of, can I do this, can I do that, which was really fun. So the whole project was really fun to make and come up with ideas. I'm going to wear it because it's like end of Halloween, end of autumn now, end of October now, and it's fun. But it's not something I would like choose to make. If I went to buy colours and make this, they wouldn't be a bright orange. But I think it was a fun project and it was very successful, and weirdly my husband thinks this one's great. So I am wearing it just probably through early November, then it won't come out again until next year, October time. But I'm really happy regardless. But I kind of had a bit of I was about to be very dramatic now and say a meltdown. That is, I did not have a meltdown. A realisation is the word, Emily. A big realisation yesterday. I need tea to prepare you for this. I tried to cast on again and make socks. I can show you actually. I thought I would hand knit the toe, knit the foot up using this yarn on my machine, and then hand knit the heel, hand knit the ribbing, and hand knit the chart on these socks, and that way I could knit the parts I enjoy, toe, heel and colour work, but just get the foot down on the machine. But I discovered 3 problems. First problem. When I'm knitting a sock by hand, I know that I have 56 stitches and 2.25mm needles, and I know that I will just knit until I can try it on and the length is just before my big toe starts, and then I can do the toe. When I do a sock on my flat knitting machine, it's really hard to know how many rows to knit, because you can't measure it, because when it's stretched out on a machine, it's not an accurate representation. When you would take it off the machine, it would then shrink in a bit. If you do a swatch, it takes a little while to actually go into the size of it. So I've got 3 problems. First one is I don't know how to get the length of my sock to work out. I'm really struggling on how to know how much negative ease one needs in a sock, because as I said, when it's flat you have to seam it together in order to try it on, and by then it's too late to add length unless you want to hand knit extra length or hang it all back on the machine and add a few more rows, and that is a faff, and the point is to make it easier. So I don't know if my foot is 24 centimeters long, how long do I knit the sock in order to have enough negative ease that they won't be too tight, like too floppy at the end, but not enough that it makes them too short. And the other issue was the circumference came out too small, because usually I'm 56 stitches, but I think on my machine I should do 60, maybe 62, because I have to seam them. The seaming just somehow looks so much worse on socks than on garments. It could be because it's superwash yarn, and usually I don't use superwash, but recently I have been, because I'm trying to use what I have in my stash, and that's what I've not been using, so I'm actively trying to use it. But even this one is a superwash, and I think the seaming looks a lot better than on socks. So I'm desperately trying to be able to make socks on my flatbed knitting machine that I like, and so far I am failing. But when I was trying to hand knit the ribbing on this sock, I'm making it so that it will, the idea was I wanted to make them like this. So this I did on the machine on this other pair, and I was hand knitting this, then I planned to do the bats on the top and fold them over. And I was watching Anna's name that I always mess up, Anna Huesfard. I was watching her YouTube while I was knitting, and I just thought, the reason I'm struggling all week to try and pick up these socks and knit these socks is because I don't like them. I don't like bright orange superwash yarn. Like, nothing about this is something that I like. I don't like black, I don't like orange, and although I understand that superwash nylon sock yarn will hold out better, I don't like it. I don't like knitting it. I don't like how it looks. I don't like the seaming. I mean, when I say I don't like how it looks, I mean with seaming. And I actually don't find that superwash socks keep my feet warm at all. I have cold feet. I'm one of those people that have cold hands and feet all the time. But if I put on woolly socks, they're warm. But if I put on superwash socks, my feet are still cold, but they just look pretty because they've got some cute design on them. But Anna's making these new socks for her autumn. Actually, she's releasing them on Halloween, and they're knitted in just beautiful Norwegian wool. And I looked at them, and it was this mixture of my heart sinking, because I realised I'm just on this weird path of knitting up stuff that I don't like. But then it also, my heart warmed up with excitement because I saw I could knit my socks. I could knit this, even this exact Batty sock, in that wool, in a more rusty orange, and make the socks I want, but not use this. To me, it just looks like one of those road cones. So I just watched her YouTube and then put this down and thought, I am not knitting that. I don't like it, don't want it. So, new plan. I'm going to rescue this because this ribbing has taken me 3 days to do. And I'm going to somehow put a rescue line in here and then just rip out all of this and probably either hide this far away or I'll give it to my mum. I don't want these superwash bright luminous colours. I just don't wear them. I don't want them in my life. So Batty socks may happen next year, but at least I have a plan. And I'm thinking I might keep some of these yarns and do like the woolly wool in the sock, and maybe I'll do some of the heels and toes maybe in the, like this, just use up the superwash nylon wools in those parts, but then use the woolly wools in the main part. So this is going to be frogged, and I kind of had my fun and my kicks for doing the bats for now, so I might do them next year, but this was fun nonetheless. Hello, this is Audio Emily, so that I can explain to you a little bit more about what I'm doing with my machine, because I never actually explained anything in the videos because I didn't have a voice at all, and realizing this when I'm watching the video back, that there's no context as to what I'm doing. So I've just been eating nuts and mulberries while editing. Now I'm trying to talk. But basically, to do colour work on my machine, you have to pull up the two knobs on the carriage, then you push all of your contrast colours into non-working position, then you go across the carriage with your main colour, with the yarn once, and then back over without the yarn, and then you push all the needles back from non-working position into working position, take your contrast colour yarn over those needles, press down the furthest knob away from you and move the carriage across. Then do that 3 times, like you do 3 rows of, like 3 crossings of the carriage every 1 row of colour work. So yes, it takes a long time. Yes, it takes a lot of concentration, but it does give results, and I'm very excited to try more in the future. Obviously, colour work is my favourite type of hand knitting, so I will not be giving it up. It's just fun to try out new things on the machine. Talking because I wanted to do a whole different video about it, but I don't think there's enough footage that makes any sense to make a video that would convey what I actually originally wanted to. So next time I do colour work on my machine, I will try and film a lot better. Okay, what do I do next? I'm gonna do 2 mended projects and then 1 sort of work in progress dilemma project. Seeing as I've messed up my hair enough, I'll mess it up again. I was going to say last year, but it could even be January this year. I made this beret, and it took a lot of brain power because for some reason this cable took every cell in my brain to make, and then I finished it and it didn't fit, and I was really disappointed because it took so much work and it's really beautiful, and it was just every time I put it on my head it went up and up and up and up and up and then shot off the top of my head, and I didn't know how to fix it. That's a lie. I knew how to fix it, I just didn't want to do it. Then I thought, you know what, why don't I just use my knitting machine and do a mock rib, long tube, cut off the ribbing on the hat and then seam in the ribbing, the new ribbing. This was easier said than done because I had to cut the ribbing off and guesstimate what the gauge would be like how many stitches would I need, how much extra length for the ribbing did I really need. I added a massive amount, like 25 extra stitches or something, and then I planned to Kitchener stitch it so it would be like this smooth seam. For some reason I can Kitchener stitch a sock, no problem, but trying to Kitchener stitch the ribbing of a headband to a different object, and everything was on, yeah, it was a nightmare, and my brain was not having it, so I thought I'll just 3-needle bind off, which in hindsight, and it didn't take long for this hindsight to kick in, that's the kind of bind off I would do for a shoulder to make it really stable and secure. And so, shockingly enough, it made a very non-stretchy bind off right around the ribbing. But I took it out for a test run yesterday, and although it is a bit tight, it's not like headache inducing tight, and I can wear my hat now. So I will show you. So you have seen this hat several times because I've had lots of highs and lows with this hat. This is it. So the new ribbing is much bigger, so it can actually cover my ears. I know that berets are supposed to be like jauntily at an angle and sort of precariously balanced and using hairpins and look stylish, but I'm not a stylish person, I'm a practical person, and I need warm ears. If I'm going to wear a hat, my ears should be warm. So they go over my ears, it goes over my ears, and I went for a 45-minute walk last night and it stayed on my head the entire time, covering my ears. So, success. I'm very, very happy. I don't know that I would purposefully seam it the way I did in the future, but I'm not really a perfectionist, so I don't really care. As long as something doesn't look like horrendous and actually functions, then I don't really mind what it looks like. So I 3-needle bound off, but so that the bump from that would be on the outside, but not on purpose, it's just how I ended up doing it. So I could have had it not show, but I don't mind, I don't care. I think it's fine. And so now I can wear this beret, and I'm so happy because it's a really nice squishy wool. I believe, yes, this one is Cascade 220, and I don't know why I have it. I remember getting it delivered at my parents' house when I was visiting, and I think I bought one ball so I would test run it to see if my mum would want a jumper made from it, and then she ended up going with something else, so I just used this ball to make a hat. So it's lovely and squishy and lovely, and now it's even lovely and big enough to go on my head because I have a big head. So that was a successful mending project, and now I can wear my new hat. I'm going to have very warm ears this winter, 2 headbands and a beret that fits. My next mending, I wanted to get out the device. I might have to do a video later. A good few episodes ago I told you that I purchased a speed weave, a little metal device that you can use to help darn your socks, and previously I've just used is it there? Right at the top there. My mum gave me this nutcracker that looks like a mushroom, so it can essentially work like one of those darning mushrooms, and you stick it into a sock and then weave over. But I've had quite a few projects that require a bit more hardy weaving. Like, basically, let's try and simplify this, Emily. This speed weave thing makes it so you have like a little loom, so you get these warping threads and then you can weave a weft through it and it leaves does not want to focus. I'm not sure how much it's focusing, but basically last year when we went to Sweden I made these for my husband, these slippers, and he wore them all winter, and then I saw there were holes, and then I saw that there were holes that were like more holes, and then I looked at the other sock and saw more holes, and I was very upset because these took ages. Mostly because I discovered, oh no, there are more holes. Oh, I need to get my speed weave out again. There are more holes to this. Okay, these will remain here. Basically, this yarn was a wool and tencel blend, and I was supposed to make him socks using the wool and nylon blend. They're the Novita 7 Brothers wools, and I ended up making my socks, which I'm wearing right now, in the nylon blend. Mine don't have holes, touch wood, but he's a lot rougher on his socks, and I should not have made him socks in tencel. So I also had to adjust the length of the heel. I had to do some pattern adjustments to get these to fit him. So lots of work went into them, and then I saw these holes and I was trying to duplicate stitch and it was not working. I was failing, and I then tried to make my own weaving thing, but it took hours and it wasn't really working. So I gave in and I bought this speed weave thing, and although I would actually much prefer if I could find a really nice quality one, I couldn't find any that looked like decent quality items. I saw some that came from China, and then I saw people selling them for much more a higher price, but it was the same photo, so I figured they've just bought them from China and they're selling them for a profit. I was desperately trying to find one that didn't come from China, and I couldn't. So I found one, I think it was Amazon, and they are really cheap and naff, and as I said, I'd love a really nice quality one because the edges were really sharp, and the elastic band that you use to secure it to the wool, they were disintegrating in the packet before I even opened them, and one of them snapped, and so the metal device slipped and it cut straight through my finger. It was really horrible and I was not a happy bunny, but the actual result was very good, and I've used it on several things. I fixed a hole in my husband's trousers, I fixed holes in some clothing and some socks. So the device itself I really like. I just want a nicer one that isn't naff and cuts my hand. I don't think I'll be talking the rest of the day. So I was going to say successful mend, but I need to do some more mending. Okay, my next finished item is kind of not 100% finished. I have a question. I have a new niece who was born a couple of days ago, and I was asked to make a hat. So I have, but I think it's too small. It is a really cute bonnet. I love bonnets. And I hand knitted this, and it took ages actually. This stitch pattern is really cool, but I think because I was using this rather naff acrylic, another story coming up, and I was using wooden needles, and it's this like technique that you lift up a stitch to go over 2 other stitches multiple times. It was really hard on my hands, but I'm really hoping, because I actually want to make another one, but for me. Yes, I want to make a baby bonnet for me. This stitch pattern is really nice, so I'm hoping using wool and metal needles it won't be as hard on my hands. But I think it's too small. But because I've never really been around babies, I don't know how big they are. And I need to do some kind of tie, but there is no way on this earth I am going to do a really long I-cord, because 2 reasons. I know I sound a bit of a impolite, fill in the impolite word. So the people receiving this are not woolly people, if that makes sense. They're not the kind of people that want to hand wash wool items, which is fair enough, not everybody wants to, but it did make it problematic for me to try and knit them something that can go in the washing machine, because everything I have is not baby friendly, like Icelandic wool or Swedish wool. If I had a baby, it would probably be put into these things. It would have to learn to appreciate Icelandic wool, but giving it to somebody else's baby, no. And I don't have merino, I don't have soft like wools that you can put in a washing machine. So I discovered this acrylic that I had, and it's a lovely colour, but I'm not going to wear acrylic, so I thought I'd make the baby something. But I hate knitting with acrylic so much. It's kind of frustrating actually, like how upset my body and brain feel knitting with these wools or acrylics that I don't like. Like, I just want to finish these projects, and I sit there in this grump being like, I don't like acrylic and I don't like knitting this. I don't want to knit an I-cord that goes on forever for a hat that might not fit, that they'll probably wear for, like, use for a week. So I'm wondering what I can use on this. When I knitted my own one, I just plaited the wool to tie, but it's not soft. Not a soft feeling under the neck. And this is for a baby, so it probably wants something softer. So I don't know if I just made a plait, like if I braided it, if that would be enough. I thought about ribbon, but then I didn't know how to attach the ribbon. So yeah, I'm not sure. And I just don't know if it's going to fit because it looks so small. Which is bringing me to my next problem. I thought a baby jumper would be super fast to do on my knitting machine. No. I decided to sort of follow this pattern, but it's not a pattern, by a guy that is doing some YouTube videos about my machine, but he's got a more modern version of it, but he does videos on how to use it. And one of his videos, he's doing a baby jumper. So I thought I'll just do what he's doing. But our gauges are different, and although at the beginning he shows a lot of measurements and like how many stitches you're going to need here for that, for this, mostly through the video these numbers sort of disappear, and I didn't know how many stitches to do here or do there. But mostly because our gauges are different, I had to adjust it. So I'm trying to show you this, but acrylic is stuck over here, dragging it over towards me. It's on all kinds, everything is midway through. So I've got this mock rib at the top. It's not seamed together yet. I've seamed one shoulder. This is annoying. Everything's sort of on scrap yarn and lifelines so that I can pick up stitches a bit later. But it's not seamed, it's not washed, and I've got one shoulder, and then basically I was using this as a way to learn some new techniques on the knitting machine whilst making something practical, but it's actually proving to be really frustrating. I don't like, usually I would knit the thing flat on the machine and then use my knitting needles and add the rib, but I saw that you can do it at the same time, so I did that and it looks so ugly. You have to like hand stitch all of the rib on the outside of the garment, so I know not to do that. So I'm gonna put my phone on silent. At least I know not to do that for an adult garment, because that's the instructions on for this machine if you want to do this, and I now know I don't want to do that for my own garment. So I have learnt that, but I do need to finish this. And the biggest issue I have at the moment is, as I said, I don't really understand how big babies are, and this neckline seems so small. In the instructions, I'm supposed to seam the shoulders together, but then I just can't imagine how you're going to get the baby's head through this. So I'm thinking I should do buttons so that you can open it and get the baby's head in. But I did look up measurements for babies, and this circumference is about 10 inches. It's about 9.5 inches if I put the measuring tape around. And I don't know if that's big enough for a baby. And I basically just stopped knitting on it because I think it's ugly and I don't like the wool. I don't like the acrylic, and I don't want to do it. But I have to. So the next technique that I haven't done before is to lay this flat, like put this onto the machine like this and pick up the sleeves from the garment and knit up. And I never knew you could do that. I thought you had to do the sleeves separately and then seam it on. So it's still a good thing to use to learn techniques. It's just not the prettiest thing I've ever done. But hopefully this week I can finish it so we can post it to the new baby. I just feel so guilty giving a baby acrylic, like I want to apologise to it. But if I gave it a wool jumper, it would turn into this probably in a day. So that is my current woe that I'm hoping will be finished very soon so I can stop looking at it. We did it. We got through my projects. I'm going to have some more fluid, delete something on this camera so I can talk some more, and then let's get on to my holiday. I want to show you some of the wool that I got, my acquisitions, and just a small roundup of what we did, because I can't talk that much more. So this section of the video is going to be kind of a combination of some projects that I want to make, some plans, and also a bit of the acquisitions that I got on my trip. So first up, we did go via Germany before we got to Denmark, but alas, there were no thrift stores in Germany. So I had my fix once I got to Denmark. We went to Aarhus and we were wandering around in the pouring rain. And originally we went there so that, I feel kind of embarrassed. We went there so I could try on the memory shoes. You may know this brand. They make vintage shoes, and like vintage inspired shoes, like the shoes based off of original vintage shoes, but modern. And they're so beautiful. And I find it really hard to buy shoes online. It's hard to buy shoes in general, but especially online, because you can't try them on. And because these come from Denmark, you have to order them and then try them on, and then you have to pay to send them back. And that would cost me a lot of money. So we thought we could visit Denmark, see a new city, and it would be very good if we could go to that shop as well so I could try all the shoes on. My husband deserves a gold star for driving all the way from Berlin to Aarhus so I could try shoes on, but with full knowledge I would not be buying any because they're too expensive and I'm waiting for a sale. But bless, he drove anyway. Anyway, in Aarhus there were some thrift stores, and so I did buy something there. It was more wool related. I found these vintage Rauma wool balls, and I wouldn't actually typically buy black, but they were vintage so I wanted them. And I bought 4, and they're all different weights. So this one is 50 grams, 175 meters. And this one, 50 grams, 105 meters. And this one, 50 grams, 165 meters. But to be honest, I just bought them because A, they're Rauma and I love Norwegian wool, and B, they were vintage, so, and they weren't very expensive. So I have got some plans, but I haven't they're not official plans yet. But I have ordered a really cool book, a sock book, and I'm going to show you next time I record, and then you will know what this is for, because I think it's going to be very fun. So wait for that one. And I'm also thinking mittens for these, but I'm not 100% certain yet. But that was my first purchase. Then we moved over to Sweden, and instead of going somewhere new like a lot of people do when they go on holiday, I wanted to go right back to where I went last year, and that was Öland, and it's way, way, way over to the east, and it's on its own island. It is on its own island? What? It is its own island, Sweden's second largest island, and on that island there is a yarn store. And I am mildly obsessed with Ullcentrum yarn, and I just love it so much. So last year when I was there standing in this store full of loveliness, I saw this wool and I didn't buy it, and I regretted it every day since. Yes, you can buy this wool online from them and deliver it to Germany, but I really enjoy going to a place and buying wool in that place if it's possible. And I knew that we were thinking about going back, so I waited and I waited and I got it. It is the thin version of their Swedish wool. So it is Swedish wool, but it is, where are your things? 50 grams, 200 meters. Typically I buy their 100 gram, 300 meters. So this one is thinner, and I wanted to, actually originally I wanted to buy this to make the Mount Pleasant long sleeved, but I've now changed my mind and I want to use this to make the Yule sweater by, but I do need your help. This will be the base colour. Then I have this Ulcentrum green that I bought last year. This is what I made my Star Serenade jumper from. Do I use this green for the trees and this yellow as the pot? You'll see it in the photo. Or do I use this leftover Jameson's for the tree? I'm not sure. I think I am leaning towards this combination. But seeing as there's only about 8 weeks to Christmas, I have to cast on my Christmas jumper because it's fingering weight yarn. So I need to speed up. I did buy 2 other yarns on that trip, but I air vacuumed them away. But I'll try and put a picture if I have one here. I got some unspun of the same, it's the Tunt garn, but in the unspun form. So I got 2 of those. Can't remember how many grams, but I will tell you. And I got 1 skein of just the plain white 100 grams, 300 meters, so that I could use that in a different project, which I will tell you about next time, I think. Because I'm hoping I will have cast it on by then. So I didn't go crazy in the wool store, I just love being there. I did get some wool insoles to my shoes when we went to Stockholm in April. I was so cold because it was snowing unexpectedly that I bought some, but I bought the wrong size, and I didn't think, it really confused me because I thought if you have a size 38 foot that you need a 37 insole because it's smaller than the shoe, but that's not true. If you are a 38, you need a 38. So now I have that and they are so comfortable and so warm. I very much recommend, if you have cold feet, that you go to the Ulcentrum store and you go online and you click and find it and order it and use them, and your feet will love you forever. Last year when I went to Scotland, I bought 3 of these, and if you can hear that, that is my husband showering. They are 230 meters per 100 grams, and I have 3. I'm definitely regretting that I didn't buy a 4th, because this has sat in my stash all year, despite longingly staring at it, wishing I could make something. I have no idea what to make. And I asked on I asked on Instagram, and a few of you actually said make Anna Westfard's Valkyria cardigan. I made one of those already because I saw it, fell in love, and bought the wool that I needed from Scotland to make it. And I love that cardigan more than I realised I would, and I wear it all the time. But I am concerned that I won't have enough because this is 230 meters, and the other one, the Swag yarn, had more meters, and I was tight Like, that was very close, and I did a lot of adjustments to make that fit. But my gauge was a lot tighter than the pattern originally, so I thought maybe if I knitted it on bigger needles at the recommended gauge, I might get away with it. I just can't make up my mind. Then I thought, one of the things I really like about that cardigan is the fluffiness, and that's because the Gotland yarn it's made of is a very fluffy, beautiful, amazing yarn that I want like every colour to fill this room. But I do have this mohair that I could combine, but I only have 100 grams. Last year I bought this extra one. They're not the same colour and they're not the same brand, but I might be able to get away with it if I used one on, I don't know, I might be able to get away with it. What do you think? Do you think I could get a Valkyria cardigan out of this? 3 of these and one, potentially one. Or another recommendation was a ranculus, which is also using mohair. I can't decide, so help please. Or if you have other ideas, do let me know. It's just, I know I do love that cardigan, so it would, and this is Gotland yarn and she's Swedish, so it would all work nicely together. I just really want to be wearing this and not looking at it in a box. I want it on my person. So I am tempted. I am tempted. I did find this wool that my mum gave me a few years ago. It's a DK British wool, and I thought if worst comes to worst, it's a similar colour and very, very similar thickness. It might even be the same. No, 220. Maybe I could use this for the ribbing of the jumper. If, like, the rib that goes for the button bands, neck and the bottom, maybe. So I just recorded a whole bunch of me talking excitedly about something, but it's also a lot of me going because I don't know how to express anything, so I'm going to leave that and excitedly talk about it later when I have actually started to use it. I will give you a hint. It's within the shot of this camera screen. One quick little thing just to show you, nothing too much to it. I found these in a thrift store in Öland and they make me so happy. They're from 1956, 1957, and I think 1956. And they are Swedish pattern books. So they have things for cross stitch. I'll try and insert a video I took, and stuff for embroidery, and I squealed with excitement when I saw these. Wrap this up very shortly. I'm going to start to wrap this up. I have decided to hold my chat about Sweden until the next video because I have so much to say that I'm not managing to say anything and it's all sounding like hibbery gibberish, so we shall hold back on that one until the next time. I have lots to talk about, including something within shot of this video, and I'll put a little bit of footage in at the end of this video, but I think I'll talk more about it next time so it makes a bit more sense. So thank you very much for watching. If you enjoy this kind of video, please consider liking and subscribing, and I will hopefully see you very, very soon.